Hey guys, what's going on? Chad here from Shifting Lanes, and today we're talking about Jeep. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Jeep? It's probably something like this. So why, you might be asking, does this Jeep come with launch control? Yeah, that was 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. Find a long enough piece of road, you'll do 180 miles an hour. Quarter mile? Yeah, that's done within 11.6 seconds. What makes it so fast? Well, by this point, you should have guessed it. You heard the supercharger, you heard the noise. This thing's got Hellcat power, 707 horsepower, 645 foot-pounds of torque. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the 2018 Jeep Trackhawk, otherwise known as the fastest SUV on the planet. Porsche, Mercedes, Land Rover, none of them. They ain't touching this thing. This beats them all. And it's a Jeep. You don't really think about top speed in a Jeep, but God bless them, they stuffed the Hellcat motor in here, and 707 horsepower later, you end up with the most ridiculous thing I've driven in 2017. So on to the, let's face it, less than exciting parts of the Trackhawk. And we start with the interior. Now, the interior has all the leather, all the nice feeling materials you could really ask for in a vehicle of this cost. And how much, you ask? Well, it starts at a kind of mind-warping $86,000. That puts it in Mercedes and Land Rover territory. And yes, the interior in here is not as nice as those. However, you're not really buying this car because it's the last word in luxurious exclusivity. You're buying this because you're like me and you are slightly immature, and there's a big ass supercharged V8 that sounds like that. That's why you're buying this vehicle. The interior just has to be nice enough, and it is. Doesn't need to be any nicer than this. It is fantastic for the vehicle, more than capable of letting you enjoy all 707 horsepower. What happens when all of that power, all of that torque brings you to a corner or an emergency stopping situation or something that isn't a straight line? Well, that is where the Trackhawk just and again, it warps your mind. It does things it really shouldn't do. And it all feels secure. It doesn't feel insane. It doesn't feel like if I go around this corner the wrong way and hit the gas like a complete asshole, I'm gonna end up in that row of trees over there. So it's got massive 6-piston caliper brakes up front, 4-piston in the back. It's got a track-tuned suspension, which in a Jeep, I mean, so it goes, stops, and makes corners better than you ever thought it would be capable of. It's obviously never going to handle as well as just a pure out-and-out sports car, but it does well enough. And that's just in a long line of things about this vehicle that it just does what you don't think it can do. You have the security of Jeep's quadra-track 4-wheel drive system. Utilizes electronic limited slip differentials. You feel like this thing is composed. And again, this is a big SUV. This is over 55 100 pounds worth of American steel in an SUV. And it's at this point, you may be wondering, all that performance has to come at a cost. Yeah, you're gonna struggle to get 15 miles to the gallon in this thing, but you knew that going in, so that's not really a major problem. All that Hellcattiness, does it un-Jeepify this thing to the point to where you just wonder why even bother? Well, yes and no. So, I mean, obviously it's got a sport-tuned suspension. It's got the ridiculously wide tires. This thing's never gonna be crazy awesome off-road. 99% of a Jeep's time is spent right here on asphalt. It might see snow. Like I said, it might see rough roads or some gravel roads. The average owner is never gonna take it much further than that. Especially the Grand Cherokee, which has become a de facto, basically a soccer mom mobile. It's good in the snow, good on loose gravel, good in the rain. What more do you need? Well, that. You need more of that. Despite all of Jeep's off-road heritage, and anytime you really think about one, you think about one on dirt or rock crawling or some other non-pavement associated form of travel. It is actually far from the first time Jeep has done something completely crazy like this. The old late 90s 5.9 Limited had a 0 to 60 time under 7 seconds, and the original SRT was under 6 seconds. Jeep has a history of making fast SUVs that by every logical account should not exist. Who needs a 707 horsepower SUV that's capable of an 11.6 quarter mile and 180 mile an hour top speed? You don't. You just don't need something like that. But God bless them for making it, because how do you not love that? This is a family car. You got room in the back for all the kids, all their crap. You got TVs in the back seats to keep them quiet when you're on a long road trip. It's comfortable. It's based on a family soccer mobile, and yet it's 700 horsepower. In today's day and age of miles per gallon and eco-friendliness and electric vehicles, there is no good reason for this vehicle to exist. None. It's 707 supercharged horsepowers of just the past. The glorious is, if that's not a soundtrack straight out of yesteryear, I don't know what is. But we didn't fall in love with cars because they got great gas mileage, because they were cutting edge of sustainability or any of that nonsense. We fell in love with them because they were cool, because they looked cool. They had a shit ton of power. They sounded like that. That's why we fell in love with cars. And this is that type of car. You know, sure, it's a Grand Cherokee, but it's a type of vehicle that has no business existing, and that is exactly why it is awesome. So how do you summarize a vehicle like the Trackhawk? It is, by all accounts, something that should absolutely not exist. It's a lot like owning a pet velociraptor. Everything in its DNA wants to kill you, but it's yours, and you've trained it, so it's not trying to kill you. It is a completely ridiculous thing. And when you consider just the time we live in, MPGs, eco-sustainability, this is none of that. This is a throwback to why we fell in love with cars in the first place. We never thought about MPG, we just thought about horsepower, and horsepower was king and nothing else. This screams horsepower, 707 to be exact. It is just a ridiculous machine. It is a hoot to drive, and sure, it may be expensive. This is a $100,000 vehicle, but you feel like you're the king of the road. There's nothing out there that can pass me. This is a fantastic machine. Should you buy it? Yeah, if you have the means and you want something a little ridiculous and room for the kids, there's not really much better out there. I'm Chad. You can follow me on Twitter at @Chenedy83. You can also follow Shifting Lanes on all social medias @Shifting Lanes. I'll catch you next time.